This episode of Lords of the Storm is brought to you by our sponsors over at Patreon, where you, yes you, can also support the show. Just head over to patreon.com/Lords of the Storm to become a patron today.
Greetings, mortal. That's kind of frightening.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 54 of Lords of the Storm, the weekly Heroes of the Storm podcast for you, the true Heroes of the Storm. I am your host, Greg Parker, a.k.a. Gizmozord, but you can call me Gizmo. And on this week's episode, a new hero reveal, kind of. We have updates on Heroes of the Dorm, and more importantly, Lords of the Lane 3. A new balance patch invades the game. Surprise, surprise. And I hope you brought your dancing shoes as we boogie on down into the Crypt of the Necro Dancer. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that, but it's Zool Week. But of course, joining me this evening are some more of the Zord Lords themselves. First up, we have Mr. Kevin Ellis, a.k.a. Multi-Zord. How's it going, Multi?
Oh, it's going pretty well. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I am running on fumes. The past couple weeks have been crazy for me, and the next week's going to be crazy.
You don't have the same beard to like preserve your energy as you once did, so that's probably it.
Is that what his beard was?
Actually,
an energy catcher?
the secret's out.
Yeah.
Gizmo is not actually here today. I am his 12-year-old brother filling in. Well, he can't make it, but yeah, I don't know. That's.
Kidsmo.
Maybe that's where the energy was.
Kidsmo-Zord? I don't know.
But we also have joining us, as always, Mr. Ryan Reeder, a.k.a. TBK Zord. TBK, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just, I'm kind of in a perpetual, state of waiting right now, because the wife could pop at any moment, and that's a baby for those.
Sounds like a
those
mess.
of you that don't know. It does sound like a mess. So it could technically, with the due date's in 10 days or something like that. And so it literally could happen at any time. So I'm on constant baby alert.
I've heard that if she just walks up and down the stairs a bunch, it'll happen. Might be an old wives' tale.
Or Doritos, right?
Doritos?
The what?
That's a thing?
Is that a thing?
Have you seen the Super? Did you see the Super Bowl commercial
Nope.
for the Doritos? Oh my gosh, you guys need to look this up. It's a thing.
Right.
Trust me, it's a thing.
$20. It happens during one of our shows.
Wow, that would be awkward.
Like right in the middle of one. Yeah.
It's like, guys, I gotta go.
And we just leave your background up, like the camera's still going the whole time.
Yeah, I don't even turn my computer off. I don't even mute my mic.
Oh, man.
You wouldn't be able to. You'd have to run.
All right, anyways.
So you still don't know the gender of that thing, right?
Nope,
No.
we're not finding out.
The thing.
That's cool. I like that.
We have the coolest little onesies we're bringing to the hospital. We've got a little Superman onesie for if it's a boy, and then she made a pink Kirby onesie.
For if it's either a boy or a girl.
It's true. Kirby is a
Kirby
gender-neutral blob, so.
That's right.
But it's pink, so it works.
That's true. What have you guys been up to in gaming this week? Multi, we'll start with you.
Oh, I've been doing a little bit of Overwatch just because I got in that beta, and I'm on this other podcast talking about it and stuff. So it seems like I should get better at the game, frankly. And actually, I'm starting to pick up some heroes that I hadn't really delved into a ton when I was just messing around playing with Steven Tankzord a bunch. I've really gotten into Reaper, actually, Ryan. You appreciate that, I think. Because it's not that hard to flank with him with all of his mobility, and then you can just get in there and land some shots and get some kills. It's pretty fun.
Got to be really careful with the teleport, though.
I'm so bad with Reaper. He is probably my worst hero.
See, I would have thought he wouldn't play into my play style just in general, but he's not bad. You actually, one advantage is that you don't have to be that accurate with him as long as you're just in there getting your shots off.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really sad that I'm bad with them because that was like the skin I wanted when I first saw those was the Mariachi Reaper skin, and that's the first skin I got.
Oh yeah.
And
Of
it
course.
You ready for that to get
it
wiped
just,
like
yeah.
3 times?
The irony.
No
Yeah.
kidding. How about those new the new stuff they came out with? The Bastion skins are sweet.
Yep.
The Lucio skin's sweet.
Lucio, Space
The
Frog.
new Reinhardt skin was
The
awesome.
Reinhardt one is the Soldier
was cool.
76 Evil Knievel thing, and the Mystery Man McCree are all awesome. Like,
And the new map, the Ilios, I think it's
yeah,
called.
I played it. I don't
is
know
it?
how I feel about
I
it.
haven't even got the chance to yet.
It was
but,
my my first game logging back in when that
Nice.
patch dropped. So it's I don't know. I really liked Control when it first came out, and I'm starting to not like it as much. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know why, but anyways, TBK, what have you been up to in gaming?
This week it's just been mostly Heroes. I've been so like pressed for time. Like all my free gaming time just goes into Heroes now, which is not a bad thing. So I've just been knocking out quests. I had a pretty epic win streak going for a while. I was up to 18 quick match wins in a row, which was probably one of the highest I've ever been. So that was fun. And then it came crashing down, of course.
As it always
And then it
does.
was just like a lose 2, win 1, lose 3, win 1 type deal. But you know, it's whatever can you do? And then I was very saddened by the news yesterday that Warhammer Total War is getting delayed for a month.
Oh yeah,
snap.
now it's coming out the day Overwatch comes out.
I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great.
Or the week of, or something like it's. I'm going to be gone on a conference all that week, and then the next week I have family coming into town, so I literally won't be able to play either Overwatch or that for like 2 weeks.
Well, that's
That-
just a series
I'm
of poor
very
decisions.
sad. Yes,
Yeah, that's-
it's very sad.
That sounds unfortunate. Well, for me again, it's been a crazy week due to I think it's okay to publicly announce now that I have been offered the job. I am moving to Florida. I'm actually leaving March 23rd, so it's gonna be interesting. Another Zord leaves KC, unfortunately, right?
Congrats. And
It's
the
going to be a little
23rd is
harder.
23rd is a Wednesday, so I guess we're flying duo that day. Or what's your plan?
Yeah,
Apparently,
we'll see. I'll do it. I'll
That's
just
fine.
post up on driving down.
on the road.
There you go.
Oh man, I may have to leave the
Call in.
24th. We'll see. We'll
They're
figure it out.
halfway through the episode, the camera just veers off as Greg goes into a ditch because he wasn't paying attention to the road.
It's a long drive. I can pull over for hour and a half or
long
so.
drive.
You'd be fine.
But yes, so that is going to be an exciting adventure for me because I've been grown up and raised and lived in Kansas City my entire life. So looking forward to starting a new chapter. But game time has been a little bit limited by it, and will probably continue to be for the next few weeks. But still, I'm getting in there for some heroes. I'll always make time for some heroes, especially Monday Night Customs. I played a lot of Zool the first few days. I haven't really touched them just because I've been doing mostly solo queues when I can get in there and find the time. And I prefer playing Li Ming and Falstad. I am in love with those two heroes. They're fantastic, and I'm really excited for some of the changes we'll talk about later. But other than that, just a little bit of Overwatch, and I hopped back into some WoW Alpha this past week and played around on the Beastmaster Hunter, and it feels amazing. I missed it so much. They've brought Volley back for Hunters.
Oh, snap.
Yes, it
That's
is.
fun.
It's so fun. But and it might just be... How's what?
I was going to ask, how's survival? How's the melee thing?
Oh,
Is
it's
that working?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's completely different than, like I said, like all the specs for all the classes feel so different. Beastmaster feels really familiar though, because it's probably the most similar to what Hunters have been, with some pretty big changes. But it feels really nice to me. But excited for Legion to come out, which isn't going to be till like September-ish. So
Did they push that back too?
well, they said it'll be out before September 21st.
So it'll be
Latest.
September
Might be.
21st.
Yeah, so it's like, oh man.
But see, we thought that with Overwatch, and then they gave us the May 24th date, which was a month earlier than the last possible projected day. So
Yeah,
It could happen.
We'll see, but it's regardless, it's a long time after they said they were wanting to get stuff out earlier, so it's frustrating.
that's true.
But hey, that's why we got Heroes, and that's why we got Overwatch.
That's right.
Because Those are the better. Those heroes in Overwatch are bad.
And Hearthstone, there's going to be the Hearthstone announcement on Friday for the new
Yes.
expansion.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be fun.
But let's go ahead and get into the heroes stuff. TBK, what do we got for the store sales this week?
So this week, for all you Murgle fans, we have Murky and Grunty Murky skin on sale, as well as the Crypt King Tassadar, the one that turns Tassadar into a dog.
Tassadog.
Tassadog. There's really nothing you can say after that.
Actually, I don't have the Grunty Murky skin. I'm probably gonna have to pick that up. It's a good skin. It's murky.
I thought about it. It is solid.
A grunt or a
It's my favorite
marine suit. There it is. Multi, what do we got in the free hero rotation?
Oh, let's see. Let's start off with, if you want to waste your time, you could play Kael'thas. Then we have Karazim, Lieutenant Morales, Muradin, Raynor, Zagara, Johanna, Illidan, Arthas, and Rexar. Of course, those last four, Johanna was at player level 5, Illidan at 7, Arthas at 12, Rexar at 15. And I'm still kind of interested that Arthas is that far down the list. Usually the last few slots are for, heroes that are a little bit tougher to master and all that. And I still think, Arthas is tough to play truly well because I still don't think he's in that great of a spot. But, I don't know. He's not like as hard to master as Rexar would be, for instance. So I find the level 12 slot for him to be a little odd.
Well, Rexar's the level 15 slot, so that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I know.
Okay,
good point.
I think it's, Arthas has a little bit of microing to him, too. New players and stuff are not going to remember to toggle, what's it called? Tempest?
I suppose that's
whatever,
true.
on
Even
and
know how
off.
to use the D.
Yeah. Whenever I first started, I left it on all the time on accident, and I always had no idea why I was out of mana constantly, and it was frustrating.
Yeah.
But he's
I
a fun
guess I
hero.
can see that.
It's
He is, yeah.
overall, it's a pretty good list, besides the Kael'thas.
Right.
And
no changes to him in this little patch either. I found that fascinating.
yeah, but Illidan. So Illidan's not, he's still not one of the stronger heroes. He can be if he's comp specific. I played him this last week because I hadn't played him in forever, and it's insane. Like, he's still super fun to play, lots of action. But it's after like the first 5 minutes, I was like, man, I must be kicking butt on hero damage. And I looked it up, and I was like lowest on the team. I was like, what? That doesn't work. And the comp you're going against was horrible for him, but I ended up going the Hunt. That's my new favorite heroic ability because all I did all game was, if I jumped in, I was just dead because we didn't have any support, and it was just a mess. So I would just sit back somewhere safe, and anytime their Nova or Zeratul popped out, I would hunt them and kill them, and then I would immediately die as well. So it was just me 1-for-1 trading the whole time. I felt like, I don't know, a map boss or something. Instead, I wasn't helpful. We did win. Yeah,
That wasn't helpful. We did win, though.
We did win.
I got carried.
I found that with Illidan for a while, though, that, like, you can do really well and feel like you're just kicking butt, and yet the numbers don't always translate. And I think it's just because he's so single target in his damage and stuff.
Yeah.
You can't rack up the numbers as you would just splashing around on Li Ming the whole time, for instance. So I think it's fine.
Yeah, and I think it's more, his stickiness is what makes him super effective because you just can't get away from him. But let's go ahead, and there's been some news announced this week. As we kind of mentioned too earlier, there was a hero reveal. Has this been confirmed, or is this a possible fake? Does anybody know?
This was in the magazine. I believe it's Game Informer.
Game Informer? Okay.
Magazine.
That sounds pretty solid. Yeah.
Well, anyways, it's a
Don't
nice,
quote me on the magazine name, but I think it was Game Informer.
it's a nice little preview for Tracer, and it says this April, Tracer joins the cast of Heroes of the Storm. So that confirms she'll be out before Overwatch.
Yeah. And they did say that there could be Overwatch characters before the game finished off. Whenever they talked about it last. So it makes sense. And seeing as that they haven't really revealed anything else, and this came out just a few days back, it's probably fairly safe to say she's going to be next.
Yeah.
Because they haven't revealed anybody else yet.
But,
So unless they have another reveal, or unless they just out of nowhere throw somebody else out, which is totally possible, This is the only hero we know of now.
Zool
Other
came
than
out
it-
last week, though,
yeah.
yes?
Yeah, so I mean that would be
Tuesday the 1st.
that could potentially be, would 5 weeks be the 1st of April, or no, 4? I think it would be 4 would be the
4,
beginning
yeah.
of April.
So
No, 4 is March 29th, 4 weeks from the 1st. So, I mean, if you want to keep the 3 or 4 week rotation going,
That's what they said
you'd
they're
have to have someone else.
aiming for. So 5 weeks wouldn't be a huge deal. 6 weeks is getting kinda pushing it. I wouldn't be
It's
surprised.
possible.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible she's next. I wouldn't be surprised if we got someone else.
Someone else.
But
Yeah.
man, I don't know. It's
But this is the only one we know of right now.
correct.
For
Like
sure.
they have
for
not.
sure.
There is other than at BlizzCon them saying Gul'dan is in the works, which I don't expect him until much closer to either the Warcraft movie or Legion's
Legion.
release. Yeah, this is the only other one we know of.
Mhm.
And we did get a lot of info on her in this little
lot.
snippet of an article too.
No, it's so interesting, too, because they're trying to make her feel as much like she does in Overwatch as possible from the way that this article comes across. And actually, it's kind of funny. We were on the Cavalry. We recorded just this past Monday night, like right before they announced this. And we did Tracer. That was our Hero of the Week that we covered. And Steven and I were going back and forth about how, like, if you had a carbon copy of her Overwatch kit in Heroes, it would be just crazy broken. Like the ability to blink around 3 times and then recall back from where you were, as well as, like, things like just in general, how is her bomb going to work and all this stuff. And so we got into the whole big discussion of that. We actually even called the possibility of that reload system, that she actually reloads her ammunition and that sort of thing. And Tracer, it should be noted, she has a 1 second cast time, if you will, on her guns. That's how long it takes to get the magazines out. And then she takes 1 second to reload them. So they could import that into Heroes, where you get just like 1 second of severe burst auto attack fire and then have it stop. I found it really interesting that she continues to fire in Heroes of the Storm even while you're moving to just
That's a big one
Keep
because
that feel.
that's really different than any other character because that's auto attacks. That's not just
Right.
not abilities while moving. That is auto attacks.
I don't even know how that's going to work because, like, I attack with the A move, and so if I'm moving with the A move, presumably I'm just stepping up to them and unloading my guns. But how am I going to, like, run a certain way and retarget to the side and stuff? I can't even fathom it yet. But
That's a good question. It could work like RTSs like Dawn of War and Company of Heroes. The units will fire at the closest things to them as
maybe.
you're moving. Like right click to a certain location, they'll fire on the closest thing near them as they're moving. Whereas in like an RTS like StarCraft, you have to right click, move them again. They'll just move, stop them, start them firing again. So that's when I read that. That's kind of the first thing that came to mind with moving and attacking while actually walking.
Well, I mean, I would think because, I would think it would be easier because you're not having to stutter step at all. You just
Yeah,
or click to attack, and then you can just move around freely. And then when that
I guess it
target's
depends
taken
how long ammo lasts. Like if her auto attacks are on an ammo system, that's going to make it even more interesting. And that honestly could be a really good balance mechanism as well. Especially in multi, you mentioned this because she's going to get her ult from level 1, her gravity bomb,
Right.
and at level 10, she's going to get a modifier for it. But you were saying how it'd be really cool if she had to build up that charge for her ult by attacking. And I
just
thought
like
that
in
was actually
Overwatch.
yeah, and I thought that was actually a really good idea.
So you have the heroic out the gate, but it's not up until you
Exactly.
charge it up. And they could totally, I mean, if they're looking to make her the exact carbon copy, pretty much as she is in Overwatch, I mean, I think they have to do something like that. But I also found it really interesting in this article. They talk about her various builds. This is why I think she's going to be broken, beyond the mobility of just blinking. But they say Tracer is a mobile ranged assassin that can be built out with her talents to become a glass cannon, persistent poker, or crowd control specialist. So the
Interesting.
crowd control bit would be very interesting on her. Maybe it's a way that you impact your pulse bomb. I'm not sure. But I mean, what makes me wonder is what about a mix between those three? Enough damage out of the glass cannon build, enough CC out of the crowd control, And 3 blinks. I mean, we talk about how overpowered Li Ming's teleport is, and it's just this tiny little flash. Multiply that by 3 and give her a recall to reset where she was a couple seconds ago. I think she's going to be just nuts.
Yeah, it's I
She's gonna have to be
really
so glass cannon.
I really can't even fathom what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
It's so
No.
different, which is good because my fear this entire time for them bringing Overwatch heroes in is a majority of them have guns. It's an FPS.
Right.
How are you going to differentiate all of these heroes? Because how are you going to differentiate Widowmaker and Nova? Is going to be really important, I think.
I think it's
No,
this ammo
Widowmaker
system.
now.
Yeah, well, and that's like the ammo system. Depending on how that works, I also think it would I don't know. It could end up being dumb, but like instead of them having mana, having ammo, to
That's
where
how
they
this
can go
is,
back
on
and,
Tracer.
and refresh
yeah.
ammo. Oh, it is.
Yeah, she's
and then
got an
like their
ammo
abilities just be off cooldown like they are in the game.
Yeah,
So-
that's pretty much how it is. So they could do a Widowmaker that has like enough ammo to where you can do the snipe shot versus the just regular SMG shot that she has and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So
And I can see her having like a grapple like Sonya, where Sonya can pull herself when she gets that talent, and then like a big reveal,
Yep.
show everyone's location and stuff. I don't know. I'm excited to see how they work it out, but at the same time, a little worried. The
Yeah, a
more
little bit.
Well,
Overwatch heroes
I
come
think
in.
at the same time too, we won't see all the Overwatch translate into heroes either.
No.
There's going
No,
to be
no.
some of them that are too similar to current kits. So it's possible we might see like some skins or some skin looking ones for different characters that are the exact same kit, but I don't think all of them will translate well.
I think they're all going to come over eventually at some point, but you're right. Some of them, like when you think of Mercy versus Lieutenant Morales, not all that different in what they're trying to accomplish, really. A couple different abilities, but it's still just channeled heal beam, right?
Yeah.
So, but one thing I do want to say, though, is that since we can tell that they're trying so hard to make Tracer as similar to how she is in Overwatch, we've got to assume they're going to do that with every other hero. So, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's going to have to fit in the math of Heroes of the Storm, but as far as feel goes, when you think through any hero in Overwatch, just kind of apply their abilities and try to think through how it is. We actually do that on the Cavalry. When we do a hero at the very end, we try to take a moment to think through how they'd work in Heroes of the Storm, and it's a mixed bag for sure.
Yeah, I've been doing that lately, and I think the two I'm most excited for is one, Farah. I think would
Oh,
be
yeah.
awesome in Heroes, especially
yeah.
with her ult, and Symmetra with teleports. With I think she'd be great on like Cursed Hollow with all their sentries and stuff. So, I don't know,
she'd be
super
cool.
excited. Also, Spirian said that they're going to have some bigger reworks in store for several heroes, such as Tychus and Gazlo. Surprise, we've been waiting on that forever, but
long.
which will arrive with our next big patch. So,
That's cool.
is that
So
a hero
probably whenever the
patch,
next
or-
big hero patch is.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
what I'm assuming.
Right.
And-
So we can finally cover those heroes.
Yes,
I know.
Good.
Because we haven't done it yet.
we haven't done
Because we knew
Tychus.
this was coming.
Have we not done Tychus?
No.
Nope.
Oh, man.
Tychus or Gazlo we have not covered yet.
But we've known about these changes since BlizzCon, so there was, I mean, what would be the point of
We were just,
doing
we were
it?
just kind
and
of
then-
waiting around.
Yeah.
And here we
Yeah.
are, March.
Yep.
It's the speed of Blizzard.
TPK, what do we got going on in the competitive scene in tournaments?
Of course. So, of course, the big thing coming up is Heroes of the Dorm. We've talked about this the last few weeks. Bracket play is scheduled to start March 19th through April 3rd, which is going to be the top 64 teams in the bracket stage. They're going to do an online qualifier, single elimination bracket. You're going to be able to fill out a fantasy bracket and all that type of stuff. So that's really cool. And then the Heroic Four are going to be April 9th and 10th. And it's going to be live and on ESPN2. And they just announced today, actually, on ESPNU on March 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, they're going to be announcing the brackets.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And they just announced today that Gilly and Jake, along with Trixler and one other Blizzard employee, I'm trying to remember who it is. While I look that up. But anyways, they're going to be the dorm casters.
Okay. Cool.
Which
So
would be exciting.
that's-
I know Trixler was last year.
Yeah,
which
Kevin
is good.
Johns. Kevin Johns. He's a creative content lead at Blizzard. So he and Trixler, Gilly, and Jake will be on ESPNU on Sunday as they reveal the Heroes of the Dorm bracket. So that's pretty
Perfect.
cool.
Sounds good.
So that's coming. I do have a beef. They still have not announced the live location, and we are
Oh, yeah.
like less than a month out now. This is ridiculous.
Kind of tough to get plane tickets to that one.
Like seriously, it's you got to get vacation off work, and then you have to get plane and hotel tickets. And the closer to the event it gets, the more expensive those tickets are going to get.
Yeah.
Like
I
they need to really take a look at this, and this is through TESPA. This is the organization they own. They need to really take a look at their processes and get this type of information out sooner,
For
because
sure.
just a few weeks is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I would have thought it would have been in Vegas again this year, but I've heard things. I'm not going to say names or anything because it's not supposed to be known. We're assuming it's kind of in LA because it mentions them getting to the top 4 or whatever, winning a trip to LA. So we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, that's
I've heard multiple different locations, but some of those locations are East Coast and some of those locations are West Coast. So I honestly have
it's
no
somewhere
idea.
in the United States.
Somewhere in the U.S. Yeah, but still, I mean, I had to get that little rant out. That's kind of absolutely ridiculous. And unfortunately,
That's a valid point.
I was hoping to go, and I probably won't be able to just because of proximity to baby TBK that's coming.
Right.
But it's something that if you do get the chance, it's a really cool event. Like watching it, I watched it live. I'm gonna watch it live, of course, this year. It was really, really fun to watch. And don't expect, especially if you're new, if you've been watching like the spring regionals and stuff, don't expect the same type of casting that you get at those spring regionals. This is going to be broadcast on ESPN2, the finals are, and is going to be a very much higher level of casting, and it's going to be much more hype. If you watched it last year, you'll know what I'm talking about. They're not going to get super in-depth, and that's because there's going to be a ton of people watching this who don't know anything about Heroes, or just turn on the TV and see this video game on or something like that. So they're going to cater to that audience. So don't be expecting that. Just come into it expecting to have like a ton of fun.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
dreadnought analytics in this. It's just
That's what I was
it's
gonna
all
say.
about the hype. It's all about going ham on the core.
And that's
calling
why
the
Gilly and
plays.
Jake are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they got the hype. They're going to bring the hype. And then the other big event coming, April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, is the Spring Global Championship in Seoul, Korea. So that is going to be really awesome. It's a $500,000 prize pool. It's going to be the first time this year that all the regions will meet up in the first global clash. So it'll be awesome. You should definitely watch that. There's going to be some absolutely insane high-level plays. And, of course, be rooting for Deventic and Cloud9 from NA. Unless you're not from NA, because I know some listeners aren't. So you guys can root for, like, My Insanity or Indignitas. Or,
I mean, you can still
yes.
root for our teams even if you aren't from here. That's
true.
fine.
I mean, we'll take it.
No one's stopping
We'll
you.
take it. Yeah, we won't
Right.
stop you. Did you have something to add?
I was just gonna say I'm super pumped for that with how much the meta's
yeah.
changed. Like we mentioned last week, they're like it's just insane right now.
What
And-
meta?
Yeah, exactly. And all the different regions always bring something crazy to the table. So it's time to see whose meta or non-meta tops the non-meta charts.
And at the same time, too, this is going to be really cool because this is taking place in Korea. And so, like, the Chinese teams and a lot of the Asian teams that had trouble getting visas and all that, issue with BlizzCon where half the Chinese team couldn't, like, E-Star couldn't show up and some of the other teams couldn't show up because of visa issues. Those type of issues are not near as big of a deal in Korea.
Yeah, and
So expect to see all the teams that make it actually get there this year.
That's important.
I'm super excited to see what the venue they play like is because esports is huge in Korea and they have all these
Oh,
big things.
yeah.
And while here, it's not as big as League or something there, I still imagine there's going to be a huge crowd and it's just going to be going nuts.
Oh, it's going to be so hype. There's going to be It's going to be insane. I'm really excited to watch, and I'm going to be tweeting up a storm. I'm going to
Of
be
course.
holed up in my living room all 3 of those days. It's going to be so much fun. Excited.
Just laying in bed eating pizza rolls again, feeling like
That's
crap the
right.
next day.
Pizza rolls, Dr. Pepper.
That's the life, man. You know it.
All right, well, let's get to the most important thing on this list.
Yes.
Multi, take it away.
Most important thing on this list?
Yes, Lords of the Lane 3.
Oh, yes, Lords of the
Yes,
Lane
that
3, of
one.
course. Because obviously everything we've mentioned so far pales in comparison
Yeah.
Of course.
to Lords of the Lane 3.
Because we're going to have a $600,000 prize pool.
That's
A
right.
lie.
It's a lot
Don't-
of ketchup
that's-
packets.
Don't quote me on that. It's a blatant lie.
If you take a few zeros off it and then make it $60 prize pool, then yeah, you're accurate. You're accurate. But no, okay. So we are definitely having it March 20th. It is at rather, it's starting at noon PST. So 2 our time. But there's going to be a check-in an hour before that. So keep that in mind. The signups are technically open right now to Patreon patrons over the $5 mark or at the $5 mark. You would have gotten your email and have a chance to sign up there if you haven't yet. But the signups are going to open for everyone on Friday. So something to keep in mind if you're trying to eke in a little bit sooner, that's where you want to do it if you're a patron, of course. And but yeah, when the signups go open Friday, we are going to shoot for 32 teams this time. So in our past 2, we had only stuck at 16, but now we've got it arranged to where I'm pretty much just going to be running admin for the whole time, setting up the matches, making sure everything's cool. And yeah, so it should be easier to pull off, I hope, as long as everyone, just cooperates and has a good time and follows along and all that. But yeah, so there's going to be a wait list as well. So if the list fills up too quick on you and you want to sign up anyway, just go ahead and do it. I'm not going to dissuade you, obviously. And in the past, we've had some people drop out, especially for shooting for 32. There's even more of a possibility of teams just not showing up for one reason or another. So, no harm on getting in the wait list for sure. But yep, like I kind of alluded to, we're going to have some just quick and dirty prizes. Amazon gift cards. There's going to be $10 per player on the for the second place team, and then $20 per player for the first place team. And yeah, 2v2. The rules are really very similar to the previous Lords of the Lane tournaments, which if you haven't been tuning in since then, basically it's just a 2v2 match. This time we're doing it on Dragonshire, and you have to stay in the middle lane, and you can't go past the bushes either way or soak experience in any other lane using any other, like Abathur's hats or Asmodan can split soak. None of that stuff for sure. But I mean, it is a little bit unlike ARAM, which is a lot like that, in that you can actually go back to the core. Like you can hearth back, you can walk back even. I mean, in a 2v2, it's more impactful because you actually give up just that much pushing time, which is huge in this. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it, though, because there's going to be, obviously, we've got a whole new array of heroes from the last time we did this. I think the last time was maybe back in April of last year, if I'm not mistaken. Like it's been a day or two.
Almost a year, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be interesting how it plays out for sure. I know that in the past, just a pro tip out there, what seemed to do well for a lot of these teams that ended up placing really high was specialists and a lot of aggression. So something to think about there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But obviously, concoct whatever you can because
Yeah, like Zagara, Falstad, and Sergeant Hammer have all had really good showings. But like we said, a lot of new heroes. Super excited to see what happens. One way that we are setting this up, so as far as seeding, 99% of it is going to be random. We may adjust some things if we recognize teams and players that have come back based on how they've done. But since we haven't done this for a long time, most of it will be random. And then as we continue to do these, as teams come back, we will start doing seeding based on rank and past performances. And so just a heads up on that. But make sure patrons, again, sign up while you can right now, as it is opening up to the public this Friday. And we're super, super pumped for it.
Yeah.
Let's move on, though. Another patch came out today, balance patch. And I was really scared for this one.
Yeah.
Because yesterday, Spirian came out, said it was coming, and just said, announced some of the heroes, said, hey, there's some big changes coming for Falstad, Artanis, and Vala. and I was really scared because I've been playing a lot of Falstad. Fear not, it was not a Falstad nerf. It's a Falstad buff, and it's awesome. So we'll just go through some of these. As Assassins, Falstad, his Gathering Storm talent, the damage gain per hero hit has been increased from 1 to 2. This is amazing. I typically go Seasoned Marksman, but there's some maps I don't like doing that, so I went this. That's awesome. I haven't had a chance to test out to see if this is actually better than Seasoned Marksman now. Kind of going more of a mage build instead of the auto attack build, but I'm super excited for it regardless. And a lot of talents, pretty much just increased damage, increased his lightning rod, some of the talents, and barrel roll, his updraft talent range increase. So good things for Falstad. Again, I was scared because he had a pretty good showing, not a super high win rate, but a lot of participation in these last few tournaments. So it's good to see him getting a buff.
I was very surprised that he did not get the Gust cooldown nerf.
I'm happy.
I was very surprised. I figured they were going to increase it to 50 or 60 seconds because it's so powerful.
Yeah,
but it was almost just a straight like small buff across the board, really.
Yeah, which
is cool.
I'm surprised.
Pretty insane. How was it? 35 seconds, something like that for his Gust.
40 seconds.
40 seconds. Mm-hmm. So that's just so low. But
it's so short.
Yeah, I absolutely love the talent though. It's pretty hard to use well, except for defensively. Obviously, pretty easy, but to really cap on it, it's awesome and just a really good feeling.
Oh, but even just using it defensively is good enough most of the time. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the better disengages in the game, I think.
But Greymane also got a buff to his basic attack damage and his and a nerf to his Gilnean Cocktail. So I don't know. I haven't played him yet. I don't think it'll affect him too much. It's not a huge nerf.
They're basically wanting. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're probably saying the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I'll say it. No.
They're basically wanting, like, the Q build right now is just so powerful. And that's basically the overarching choice of everybody takes this build, especially in competitive games. So they're wanting to make the Worgen build a little better.
Yeah. The most important change, in my opinion, in this entire patch, which I called this after the first game I ever played with Li Ming, I said, she needs a nerf to structure damage. Well, here it is.
Yes.
Magic Missiles now deals 50% damage against structures. Along with a few other Magic Missile nerfs. Mirror Ball now increases mana cost of Magic Missiles by 5. And Fireflies reduces mana cost of Magic Missiles by 5. And then Disintegrate, the Temporal Flux slow has been decreased from 60% to 40%. So all in all, great changes. I played a few games with her today. She still feels amazing. She just doesn't have that stupid pushing power that she did have, which is perfect. I think she feels like she's in a really nice spot right now.
Yep, and you can still push with the W, obviously, the Arcane Orb, but, I mean, much longer cooldown, much more mana inefficient, so, yeah. I'm glad that they looked at Magic Missiles for the change instead of that, for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if people want to be pushing with W all the time, go for it, and then come into a team fight with hardly any mana. I'll
Nothing.
find a deal with that. TBK, what do we got going on with Vala? She got some pretty big changes.
Yeah, she actually got a bunch of buffs to her kind of auto attack build. Basic attack damage increased from 91 to 94 per level. Basic attack damage gain per hatred stack increased from 2 to 3%. Hatred stacks gain per ability cast increased from 3 to 4. Damage bonus on the Mana Core talent increased from 50% to 60%. The multi-shot damage was actually reduced from 164 to 148. And Caltrops, of all things, because, that's the talent everyone took before, and everyone's going to take it now. The damage was increased from 30 to 45 plus 4% per level, and the slow amount was increased from 20% to 30%. So everyone's going to take that one now, guys.
It's going to be dropping Caltrops all over the place.
Caltrops all over the place.
Caltrops for days.
And then actually, Reign of Vengeance got a nice little quality of life damage buff. Damage increased from 256 to 350 plus 4% per level. So that was just a straight buff to her other ult, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's not a bad ult at all, especially situationally because it's got that stun attached to it.
True.
Yeah.
I think that we actually should skip Zool this week and just do Vala instead because we need to go over this Caltrop build, guys.
It's
The people need to
really
know.
meta. Just
Yeah,
watch it
it's
happen
OP.
now, and it's gonna be like, what?
Right.
Everyone's
It
right.
could.
OP is all get out.
No, I am super excited that the auto attack build's getting buffed though because I liked it better anyway. Like I'm a bit more aggressive on her as it is, and there's so much you can get from the auto attack build, and to see that go up, I can't wait to try this out.
Yeah.
I still think the multi-shot build will have its place,
Yeah.
especially on maps like Infernal Shrines where you need that clear. The extra clear will help, but I think this will give the auto attack build an actual, like, okay, I don't need to feel bad for doing this build instead of the multi-shot build now.
Yeah.
Right.
A few of the specialists got changes. This one is also huge. Abathur, his symbiote got a buff, the shield during his symbiote increased from 137 to 150. However, Toxic Nest, Vile Nest talent nerfed. Slow amount decreased from 50 to 40, and slow duration decreased from 4 to 3 seconds. Thank goodness, because that is the most, that thing, if you want to piss me off, put me on tilt super hard, I just got to hit one of those bad boys, and I am in a bad mood the rest of the match.
GG, the game's
It's
over.
still gonna be annoying.
Yeah.
Just slightly less so now. Like I saw a ton of people saying the slow is still in there, and yeah, I don't know. We may see it reduced even more. It is definitely one of the most annoying things to hit because a good Abathur, they will be everywhere exactly where you walk.
And then
All the time.
whenever I play Abathur, I'm like, all right, this person's going to hit it right here. No one ever touches it,
Yep,
and I
no
never
one
get
touches it.
anyone. So it's super frustrating. I would like to see, I would even be okay with the slow mount still being 50% if it was just a decaying slow.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, like, even, yeah, 50%,
I
3 seconds
agree.
decaying slow would be nice because that's just, it feels
It's so much.
bad. But also
Multi-
Zagara. What?
Wait, Multi,
What's up?
you should read the developer comments for Abathur.
Oh no, I definitely did. Oh, you want me to read it aloud?
Yes.
Let's
because
just,
it's
let's just all
incredible.
read it to ourselves and chuckle and not
Yeah.
let anyone know. Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, that's clever how they crossed out the. Yeah. No. Okay. The developer comments reads, "It's extremely difficult bartering with the space slug. Abathur refused to allow us to not nerf, devolve him without also not buffing, evolving him. In exchange for lowering the overbearing slow amount and duration of Vile Nest, he has gladly accepted a baseline increase to his Carapace shielding." So yeah, they crossed out nerf and buff and replaced it with devolve and evolve. Clever.
good.
Basically, they have a very back and forth relationship with Abathur, apparently.
He's
Absolutely.
got to be a tough
They
one to
have to
balance.
buff him
It's
if
true.
they nerf him.
But then we also saw Zagara, her Hunter Killer. The W got the health change from 554 to 471, but with a
goodness.
nice little 0.5% per level. And then Devouring Maul cooldown increased from 100 to 120 seconds, and the Tyrant Maul cooldown reduction increased from 25 to 30. So Ghana got the same treatment as Ancestral Healing did, which
Very much needed,
Yeah.
I think.
and honestly, you know, it's, I don't know, it pairs up better. And again, this is one of the strongest ults in the game, so therefore it should have one of the longest cooldowns.
And it
Makes
still
sense.
is, even with the buff to
Yeah.
the, or not buff,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
nerf, but the larger cooldown, even with that, it's still just great.
We had one support get a little change. Breath of Heaven on Karazim. The initial heal got a little buff from 250 to 280. However, Echo of Heaven, the second wave heal amount, is decreased from 50 to 35%. So they're just saying that that trait was contributing too much to his overall healing. So they nerfed that, but just increased the base heal. Multi. I know you love our tennis. What do we got here? You got the big
Did we
changes.
just talk before the show about how I never
Yeah, I know.
play
TBK.
I mean, I'm down.
Go for it.
I'll go through it. Yeah, okay, so he's getting somewhat of a buff. We've heard from a few people that have tried this out in the Discord that he's definitely tankier, so something to think about there. He definitely got a flat health buff from 2245 to 2335. Not too huge, but it's something. Health regen is up as well. I mean, it's an overall buff, really. His shield overload's been changed around quite a bit. Some of the talents that go into that. Really, there's a lot going on here. You're probably better off just checking it out in the patch notes. But let's see here. The Blade Dash has a Templar Zeal talent where the cooldown recharge rate is increased from 75 to 100%. There's a couple to the Twin Blades here as well. Amateur opponent talent bonus damage against non-heroic targets increased from 100% to 150. It's a little bit more clear for that. Let's see here. He has a Triple Strike talent, now also increases the cooldown of Twin Blades by 1 second, so I guess minor nerf there. And then, of course, a few things to go with the Phase Prism as well. Some just talents switching around and that sort of thing. Chrono Surge talent, the attack speed bonus is increased from 25 to 40%. And Warp Sickness has a slow duration increased from 3 to 4 seconds, so another little extra slow there. Graviton Vortex talent now also reduces the cooldown of Phase Prism by 6 seconds, which is actually pretty serious. So they're just talking in the developer comments about how he was performing or not performing very well in some of the talents when compared to others on the same tiers, and that they're trying to just nudge him toward better build diversity, and they're just going to keep watching him.
Yeah, it's overall good things for him. He's really fun to play. Saw some action.
I need to pick him up again, for sure.
Yeah, saw some action in competitive play, but we'll see. And then Sonya, just Wrath of the Berserker cooldown increased from 45 to 60 seconds. So that's 5 weeks in a row, I believe, of balance updates, which is good to see.
Thought we had a
none
break
the
there.
week before last.
There wasn't?
Nope, there was 1 week.
Well, 1 week.
1 week.
But the point is they're pretty regular.
Yes,
That's good.
They are really cranking these things out.
All right, well, guys, I would just like to take this time to go ahead and give our patrons a thank you. We've had a few more this week. We had Brad Adams contribute, so thank you very much for supporting the show. And we also have another Zord to welcome into our midst. So without further ado... You have been deemed worthy of bearing the Zord title. Welcome to the Zord Lords. We have our first patron producer of this show. So a huge thank you going out to Ouroboros Zord. That is going to be tricky for me to say. I know what it is, but just every time I try and read it. And plus the Zord makes things hard. Ouroboros Zord. But thank you very much. Seriously, continuing each week, you guys just my mind is on the floor right now, and I can't pick it up.
Your mind is on the floor. Your jaw's not.
Oh
but your
my gosh.
mind is.
Your mind is.
Struggling.
Are you going to take it with you to Florida, or are you just going to leave it
I
there?
probably should, especially if I want to make it to Florida.
Yeah,
But,
I guess so.
Holy cow! So it is time to talk some Zool, and it is already going along in the show. Not long yet, but that's we love doing shows on Wednesdays because we get to talk about brand new news. But gosh darn it, Blizzard likes dumping a ton of stuff on Wednesdays. It makes it hard to fit it all on the show. But let's go ahead and hop into
Hero of the Week.
All right, it's time to get your dancing shoes on. Crypt of the Necro Dancer. Don't know if you guys have played that. It's a fun game. But it's Zool Week, the Diablo 2 Necromancer, newest hero into the game. It's been out a week now. And very interesting hero in quick match. He doesn't always seem that super powerful, but he is dominating the win rates on hot slogs right now. So arguably more OP than Li Ming was when she came out. But it's a very interesting hero, very comp dependent, I think, and involves a lot of teamwork to get the most out of Zool. However, he also has great build diversity, I think.
For sure.
So the build we chose this week is his assassin build. and this is going to be the best build for you to go into quick match by yourself, even with 2 or 3 people. To really, I like his utility build, and it's very strong, but to really have that be effective, you need to be playing Team League or something and have a full
And we'll
comp.
touch on the utility build too
For
as
sure.
we go through, just so you guys know. Because as all things, Zool might get hit in a certain spot next week in a balance patch, because next week will be his 2 weeks, and so of course, the curse of going over a hero and them getting nerfed right after, if that continues.
It's the Zord curse.
Zord. So we'll go over some alternatives as well, just so you know.
Yes, and let's go ahead and hop in, get going. Multi, what do we have for his combat trait?
It's super strong. It's a raised skeleton. When a nearby enemy minion dies, it becomes a skeletal warrior that attacks for 31.20 plus 4% per level damage and lasts up to 15 seconds. Up to 4 skeletal warriors can be active at once. And do you guys know, I haven't taken the time to check it out yet, but do we know if these are a direct reference to Diablo 2 in their art? Anyone know that in the chat or anything?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
I mean, they're pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, it's turning the minion wave to join you and allowing for your already crazy push potential to be even more.
Yeah.
I want to point out that Zool gets Sylvanas' ult as his trait. I just wanted to point that out. Like,
Yeah,
that tells you how broken possession is right now.
that's a good point.
Yeah. For his Q, we have Spectral Sith. It's 45 mana on an 8-second cooldown. You summon a Sith that travels to you after 1 second.
Whoa, Sith?
Isn't it Scythe?
It's a scythe, Greg.
Scythe that travels to you after 1 second, dealing 312 damage. I left that piece of my mind on the floor. That the hard Y Scythe.
Yeah.
Anyways, it deals damage to enemies, but it's a skill shot. But however, instead of the shot coming out from you, it comes back to you. So it's kind of different, pretty cool. TBK, what do we got for his W?
His W is Curse Strikes, 65 mana on a 15-second cooldown. Your basic attacks deal damage in a wide area and reduce the attack speed of enemies by 50% for 2 seconds, and it lasts 4 seconds once triggered. So you can actually hit the W, and as long as you don't actually attack anything, the cooldown of the 4 seconds won't start.
Right.
Yes, and this is like the most incredible wave clear in the game. It's
by far.
absolutely
So
insane.
good. So good.
It's like Leoric's Q, except it's
But on
4 seconds worth of them.
Pre-nerf. Pre-nerf Q.
And that's it. I thought it was Curse Strix. It's Strikes. Okay, I got
Oh,
it.
yeah. All right, so the next ability is his
Bone
E, which is
Prison.
Boon Prison.
Bone Prison.
Boon Prison.
Yeah, Multi, what does Bone Prison do?
Bone Prison's pretty sweet, actually. 80 mana, 12-second cooldown. After a 2-second delay, deals very small, 83.20 plus 4% per level damage, and roots the target enemy hero for 2 seconds. So they got 2 seconds to react to it and move to basically where they want to be rooted, and then 2 seconds to sit there. So it's also, I mean, it's fairly short range, but it's really easy to land, and I mean, it's not that hard to pick out the target you want. You end up really throwing off a lot of players with it at this point. I don't think your average quick matcher seems to really catch on to the intricacies of this one. And definitely, I kind of mentioned this last week briefly, but if you catch someone in tower range with no minions nearby, they're dead. So it's actually, with all of his pushing power in the very early game, it's kind of tempting to hold back and just wipe the wave when it comes up to your wall, because you can pull off some cool early game kills all by yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And then he also has another ability that we'll get to in a second once we go to the build, because it's different than pretty much every other hero. However, for his heroics, for his first, we have Poison Nova. It's 100 mana on a 90-second cooldown. After a short delay, release poisonous missiles that deal 592 plus 4% per level damage to all enemies hit over 10 seconds. This thing can be devastating if used correctly. Obviously, you want people close range. It's these big missiles that move very slow, and the further they're going, the easier it is to get in a gap between them. So they go great with the Johanna Condemn or a Diablo stun, lots of stuff. So just it destroys a team. While it's very slow poison damage, healers can't heal that many people with that much damage. They can't keep up with it. So even if it doesn't get a kill, it forces them to disengage, and you'll be able to pick somebody off because, again, the damage is just insane. And then for his second heroic TBK, what do we have?
The second heroic is Skeletal Mages, 80 mana cost on a 70-second cooldown. You summon 4 Frost Mages in a line that attack nearby enemies for 48 plus 4% per level damage a second, and slow them by 30% for 2 seconds, and they last up to 15 seconds, but they can also be killed.
Yes. This one, I'm scared to say I don't like it.
I don't either.
I've never found a good
agree
use
with you.
for it. I've seen people use it well. However, the reason I don't want to say I don't like it is because it doesn't seem as good as Poison Nova. I'll reserve judgment until we see him in competitive play, because we made fun of Haymaker all the time. What did we see in the North American regionals? We saw some Haymaker. So
Once.
I think it was 2 or 3 times, but we saw it.
It can be all abilities can technically be used by very, very high skilled.
You will
people
not see possession
in
used
certain
by high skill.
situations. Well, possession, as we went over,
I'm just making a point.
Yeah, it's a thing.
It's I think skeletal mages can be used well. I've seen it used well. I just Poison Nova for me is insane, so that's what I go with. But let's go ahead and hop into the build for level 1. In this, and again, this is kind of the assassin type build. We're going Backlash, and the level 1 talents, all 3 of them, affect his 4th basic ability, which is new for a hero. It's activated by hitting 1, and it's his Bone Armor. And each of these change it, but we're going with Backlash. So when Bone Armor expires, nearby enemy heroes take damage equal to 15% of their maximum health. It's a fairly small range, so you want to be right up in there when this goes off. But 15% of the health, if you're in there for again like a Condemn or a Mosh or something, it will do a lot of damage. But then just to go through the others, because since they do all affect a basic ability, he has a Shackler, which slows nearby enemies for 30% for 1 second while Bone Armor's active, and then Shade, which is really nice against auto-attack teams. While Bone Armor's active, you evade all basic attacks, but increase the cooldown of Bone Armor by 10 seconds. And that 10 seconds is a lot, because Zool is
like an eternity.
Yeah, Zool is surprisingly squishy, and since he has to be in there to, land that Bone Prison and kind of get some of his effectiveness, to maximize his effectiveness, it's his armor is very, very important. And at 10 seconds, again, 40 seconds may not seem like a long time, but it feels like an eternity on him. So it's definitely still a strong choice, though. But for the assassin build, go that Backlash. Get that 15% damage. What are we going with on level 4 TBK?
On level 4, we're going with Death's Reach, which increases the spectral sight's range by 20%. And this is one that I almost feel is a must-go-to in a lot of cases, because his basic scythe range is not that far, and this actually makes it so you can poke with it, as well as get almost an entire minion line as they're walking in a straight line to come up before they start clumping up. So it's very, very useful talent.
Yeah, Spectral Scythe would be great wave clear by itself, but I mean, add the Curse Strikes on top of that, and you're way over the top. And Death's Reach definitely helps you get even more siege damage late game too. You can be hitting the fort and the wall as you're pushing the wall, and all kinds of little things. So definitely a good pick.
Yeah, for sure. And range is king. I mean, like TBK said, this allows you to safely poke if your Bone Armor is on cooldown or whatever, just until you're ready to engage. Multi, what are we going with at level 7?
Number 7, we're going with Harvest Vitality, which is where your Curse Strikes heal you for 68 plus 4% per level for each hero hit. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, again, the Curse Strikes, you get quite a few of them off. They're cleaving in a big, wide cone in front of you. And I mean, we've already hinted at the fact that Zul's a little squishier than we may have originally thought, and that's even with his bone armor up sometimes. So sometimes this is the difference between surviving a group fight and not.
Yeah, and this is ability obviously isn't going to be as effective on, a one warrior comp that has a whole bunch of poke and a support hero. But against those melee teams that he's actually just going to thrive at, this is insane because I believe you can get 4 strikes off if they're perfect. I know you can get 4. I believe you can get 5, and if you're hitting 3 people, that is 180 times 5. That's a lot. So it makes you just pretty much impossible to target. Plus, their auto attacks are being slowed by 50%. So not only are you healing, you are crippling them trying to do damage against you or the rest of your team. So it really is amazing.
Although we should mention on this tier, they also have Weaken, which is where you increase the Curse Strike attack speed slow from 50% to 75%. So, I mean, if you're up against a team that just has that much auto attack damage, or you're fighting Butcher or Illidan or something, that's a strong pick too. And I feel like that and some of the elements of the, just utility build are going to be probably what we see in the pro play. Weaken over Harvest Vitality, but for just general quick match purposes, I'd say Harvest Vitality is still a strong pick.
Yeah, for sure. Weaken is my pick of choice when I'm playing in a team league or with a group of 5 because that utility is insane. But for survivability and solo queues, just super important. Level 10, we are going to be going with Poison Nova. For the reasons we stated, it's absolutely devastating, and we just feel it has the upper hand on skeletal mages right now. Got a bubble in my throat.
I would like to say, skeletal mages, if you do want to pick that, it can be really good for singling people out because you can throw it in front of them, and if it's just 1, maybe 2 people, it's very hard for them to take down all 4, and the slow is decently significant. So you can actually use it kind of as a wall. They can walk through it, but you can use it as a wall to kind of block them in and force them to either be slowed and take a bunch of damage as they walk through, or turn around and fight you while taking more damage. So it's can be a really good chase down. It can be a really good thing to isolate people. You just kind of have to judge whether the team comp you're up against, you think that can work out or not. If you do have a lot of stuff on your team that will stun, that will AoE stun a VP, a Maw, an Apocalypse, something like that, Poison Nova is probably always going to be your go-to because you can just set it up to do insane amounts of damage after one of those strongholds.
Yeah, and I think it is worth mentioning, skeletal mages, it isn't just the slow. It does do damage, and it does more damage than you would think, which makes me think, it says 48.75 per second. I'm wondering, I think it's probably each mage does 48.75 per second.
Each mage is its own thing, but they are fairly squishy too, so you have to keep that in mind. You're not going to throw that down and they're just going to be like the things that save you. They can die pretty quick, especially if you're fighting someone with AoE.
Absolutely, but I was just going to the point that you said for picking people off, because that is
for sure.
200 damage per second while they're slowed trying to escape, which is a lot. So it's great for that. And I do think the skeletons need a health buff, and I think it could actually be pretty viable.
Back to Poison Nova real quick, though. It does say in the tooltip, after a short delay, you release the poisonous missiles.
Yes.
It is totally interruptible in that short delay.
Yep.
You kind of have to think about it as the Earth, Wind, and Fire split on Chen, if you've played some of him. It's about the same length of time. I don't know the exact time, a second-ish. But, in that time, it can be interrupted.
Yeah.
That totally happened to me earlier.
Does it have a cast bar? I've never noticed a cast bar for it. And
I don't seem to think so. If there is one, I didn't notice it either.
Yeah, and the first couple times I would hit R and then move, and there was a couple times where it gave me the full cooldown without casting it. Don't know if that's a bug. It feels like it should probably go to the 8-second or 9-second cooldown timer. So just be aware of that. Make sure it goes off before you move. Let's go on to level 13, though. TBK, what are we going with here?
So for this build, we're going to go with Giant's Curse. Curse Strikes deals an additional 2% of max health as damage to heroes. And again, this is more the assassin build, but holy crap, can this thing rack up the damage, especially in a team fight where that Curse Strikes is hitting 2, 3+ people. It's just going to do so much extra damage. And again, it's kind of like a Giant Killer, his version of a Giant Killer. It's on a longer cooldown because it's tied specifically to his W, but it's very, very powerful, especially if the team has got a lot of melee or such that you're getting in and actually fighting with at the same time.
Yeah, and then I will mention Decrepify, which is the utility build direction where Spectral Slice slows enemy by 40% for 3 seconds.
So good.
Yeah, really good for setting up your team. But yeah, Giant's Curse, it's really good. Let's go to level 16 multi. What are we going with here for the assassin build?
16, we're going with Amplify Damage because any sort of vulnerability is incredible. Enemies rooted by Bone Prison become vulnerable for 2 seconds, taking 25% increased damage. And keep in mind that is the 2 seconds they'd normally be in the Bone Prison, as long as they're not cleansed or a number of other things. But yeah, super good because obviously it's a stuck target that your team's probably focusing anyway, and it's a good point too if you take this talent. To actually point that out to your team if you're in quick match, just be like, hey, the Bone Prison guy is now vulnerable or something, so that your ranged assassins and the sort can start to think that through in terms of their targeting and all that. So
yeah, I actually think this is one of the best, if not the best, vulnerability in the game because it's a lot of them are the 2 seconds, but this gives you time to see what target is going to be vulnerable for 2 seconds before it actually pops. It's very clear which hero is about to get the Bone Prison on them, so it allows your team to set up and really get ready to nuke that person down. So it's super strong and, again, super recognizable for your teammates to see who to get ready to target. And then the other one I think worth mentioning is Flowing Wounds. Reduces Spectral Slice cooldown by 4 seconds if you hit an enemy hero. Great for the utility build. Goes really well with the Decrepify because now you're keeping enemies slowed by 40% for 3 seconds, and reduce cooldown so you can keep that slow on even longer. And then level 20, this is situational. There's a lot of good ones. For the assassin build, I prefer Bone Spear. It gives you another activatable ability. It'll go on your 2, where you deal 270 plus 4% per level damage to enemies in a line, and I believe it's a 10-second cooldown.
10-second cooldown.
10-second, no mana, just an ability, and it's huge
so
wave
good.
There as well.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's so good.
It's insane. The other one I would take, Call to the Grave. It's not that great. Poison Nova deals an additional 1% of the target's maximum life as damage every second. That sentence was structured badly because I said it. Another one I would take, and then I pointed that out. That's not the one I would take.
Yeah.
The other one I would
Okay,
take is Mortal Wound, which is great, again, for the utility build because enemies hit by Spectral Scythe receive 75% less healing for 4 seconds. So now they're slowed by
insane.
40%. They're taking 75% less healing, and you're able to cast that more often. So it is
if you've
pretty
gone the
insane.
full build,
Utility
which
build,
we
yes.
didn't this time. But yeah, it's good.
So yeah, absolutely insane. He is, like we mentioned before, he really has 3 different builds right now. They're all great. His damage can be absolutely insane. But just be prepared. I think he's one of the harder heroes to play in solo queue because of his positioning and stuff can be difficult. But if you get good at it in solo queue, you'll wreck with it in Team League whenever you actually have a team you're working with and building a comp around them. So it's really fun hero. I definitely suggest checking him out if you didn't spend the 15K on him. But does he go down to 10K next week, I'm assuming, after the 2 weeks?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely one worth picking up. I think he will be in one of the top spots for a while. And again, it'll be really interesting to see how he has played. He will be available for the Worlds, I believe, Spring Worlds.
Yep,
so
you will.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Gonna see who's the king of them. Let's
Definitely think we'll see him for this. Well, I think he'll be banned unless he gets hit really hard or something next week.
Between now
I
and
think
then,
he's going to be picked and banned a decent amount.
Oh,
Even then, they'd have to change the entire way his kit works for him to not be incredible.
He's going to be, I think he's going to be right up there with the Thrall Zagara level of prioritization.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's hop over to Heroes Counters really quick, though, to look at some strengths and synergies and weaknesses. So Zul can be strong against. They have Illidan, the Butcher, Thrall, Kharazim, and Greymane. Honestly, though, any melee assassin is going to be great against. That's melee auto attack assassin. I'll say that. Just because that 50% slow or 75% if you're doing the utility build is crippling as a melee hero.
For sure.
Especially, we'll give reasons for the top ones. Illidan, he heals by auto attacking, so if he can't or dealing damage, actually it's just auto attacking. I don't think it's his abilities, so that's taking his healing down a lot. Butcher, same thing. Butcher's brand, not going to get nearly as much healing from that. Thrall is Thrall auto attack,
Yeah.
and Kharazim's not going to get those heals off. So yeah, melee heroes up there. Zul can be weak against. What do we got, Multi?
We have Jaina, Chen, Kael'thas, Johanna, and Lunara. Of these, I don't agree with all of them. I don't think anyone's weak against Kael'thas right now, but that's beside the point. But, I mean, some of the more ranged, I guess the people voting for these are thinking, ranged assassins that don't get punished a ton by having their attack speed cut. I would think Li Ming would be in that list as well, but she's not really on this one until a little bit later down, and even that one's pretty even. So Lunara is interesting. I haven't done this matchup yet, but I could see like her ability to just dart around and stay out of his range while poking him down could get pretty annoying on him. So I could see that. But Chen, I think, is the most interesting one. Have you guys had this matchup yet? I mean, obviously he can stick to him, which is
it's the
definitely detrimental.
it's his drinking, because Zul has no way of interrupting his drinking, and especially if he takes I forget the name of the talent. Basically, you get an AoE shield around yourself when you drink, and so that can negate a lot of the poison nova damage. So he's actually very good against Zul.
Yeah, and as far as the Kael'thas and Jaina, I think it's not just ranged assassins, but ranged assassins with CC that can slow him down. I mean, even though Kael'thas isn't nearly as powerful as he was, that stun is enough to where if you don't have your armor, you're dead if you get caught in it. But Zul makes a good team with. We'll pair it with this. We got Jaina, Li Ming, Kerrigan, Zagara, and Tyrande. So yeah, and he pairs up great with pretty much any hero. Not really, but
Lunara. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well,
Zul plus Lunara is stupid.
You're wanting to protect your back line, obviously. If they can do that, deal the most damage they can, and you're slowing down, again, if they have a dive comp or whatever, or melee assassin comp, even if they get to the back line, their attacks are going to be so slow, they have plenty of time to escape. And then the Bone Prism with that vulnerability, any assassin's just going to blow people up. Li Ming is great with them, because you see, again, you have that, you see who's going to get the Bone Prism, so you can kind of position yourself to where as soon as that goes up, you can land your orb missile disintegrate combo and melt them. Delete. But yeah.
And Zul and Li Ming might be a really strong Lords of the Lane comp.
I do think they could be.
If they don't get banned out or, split pick.
Yeah, because
Which could happen.
both of them have nice self-healing talents. So
It's usually a
And
very
both of
good
them
thing
are-
for Lords of the Lane.
Both of them are fairly mana efficient too, which is also a pretty big deal in Lords of the Lane.
yes.
Like Zul, I don't have a ton of mana problems with him. I mean, eventually, if you lane long enough, you're sitting at a third for a while, it feels like. But I think it's in part because his Spectral Scythe is so low mana cost. I mean, at just 45, it's an 8-second cooldown, which is pretty short, but it's not bad. It really is.
This skeleton build might actually be really good for Lords of the Lane. We didn't go over that a whole lot, but it is a pretty dang powerful laning build.
There's mana efficiency stuff you can put in it and all kinds of stuff,
But remember, if you're planning on participating in that, don't think that the builds you play in Quick Match or Hero League are the builds to go, because that's one of the good things about Lords of the Lane. You see a lot of crazy talents that you would never see picked that are excellent for the 2v2s. So maybe we'll see some interesting stuff from that. But let's go ahead and move on to community content. What do you got this week, TBK?
So this week, I'm just giving a shout out to Carbot
Yes.
because
Yes.
Carbot does so many good things. They do a ton of stuff for Blizzard. They do World of Warcraft stuff. They've done some Hearthstone stuff, some StarCraft stuff, of course, and of course Heroes content. And the latest one to come out is all about our buddy Kael'thas, and it is absolutely incredible. The
It's
show
so
notes
good.
will have a link to their YouTube channel. If you've not checked out any of their stuff, or if this is the first you're hearing about them, please do yourself a favor and go watch them. You will be glad you did.
It nails Kael'thas on this one.
Oh my
because
gosh, it's so
like
good.
Kael'thas is like a pretty boy elf, and that
Uh-huh.
opening stuff is like how I've always pictured him, and I've watched that one probably 15 times at least.
The
already.
pyroblast kills me.
Oh my gosh.
That's the
It's
best
so
Well,
one.
and
good.
the Rhaegar or Rexar.
Rexar, yeah.
Gosh,
Oh,
it's
Misha.
just good. I'm sure most of you have seen it, but if not, you got to check it out.
Yeah.
Uh,
My favorite is Artanis, the Artanis Uther one, though.
it's
That one
pretty
is the
good, too.
best one.
I think that's got to be my favorite. It's so embodies the clueless support player.
You should drink from that well.
We should take a Merc camp.
Good old Uther. Multi, we have a listener question this week. What do we got?
We've got a couple, actually. We've got one from Sardonic, who writes, now that we have Zul as an auto attack counter, what talents and abilities would you like to see in a mage killer? Could a mana drain talent work? Or do you think we already have a hero that could be tweaked to become one? And well, first of all, mana drain totally reminds me of the mana burn from the old priests. I don't even think they have that anymore, do they, Mr. World of Warcraft?
Oh, I didn't do PvP stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, it was super broken in its heyday because you could just sit there and spam it and then just a mana fight because that's just what you did. And so that's kind of what I'm worried about in this game, too, with mana drains. I'm worried that it would just cause your laning to become too easy because you're sending your opponent back too much. I like the idea. I mean, I certainly think that when I picture mana drain in this game, I think of it as like, Leoric's Drain Hope, where you have to skill shot it and then stay within a leash range. That could be kind of cool. Some hero that's like slowly sapping your mana down doing that, as opposed to like if you have it just as a clickable, not even skill shot, just quick little automatic instant ability, then it would be too much. So, but I don't hate it. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Do you see any mana drains coming to the game?
I think you have to be. I like it, but you have to be really careful about it. I know, like this actually sparked some chat over this question in the Discord, and like somebody was suggesting like a 50% mana drain on 30-second cooldown. That would be insane because your wells don't even give you 50%. So I mean, you could drain somebody, they go hit their well, drain them again, and they would. I mean, you could drain them completely of mana before their wells even back up. So it would just keep them out of the game the entire time. I think I would like to see, I don't know if it should be like a specialist or a support hero. Probably a support, but someone who can grant his team like a spell block or a spell shield for something. Short time, get ready for the combos or a heroic or something.
I like the idea of it being a talent instead of like just a flat ability too.
Yeah.
He kind of, I mean, in his question he said, could a mana drain talent work? And so maybe you'd have that talent on a tier with something else that's really good, so you just only see it sometimes. I could see
Or
that.
maybe I could talent to where you can pop it, and if you get hit by somebody's ability, it costs twice as much mana. For
Or it breaks it
like
or
a 3 or
something.
4 second spell shield, to where you pop it and you get hit by that, it ends up costing twice as much mana as what they should have. But as far
Right.
as I think we already kind of have some mage killers in dive comp type situations. If you have the right comps, Kerrigan, really easy to get to the back line, stuns, kills. Thrall can be good. So in a way,
Tyrael.
yeah, Tyrael. So in a way, we kind of already have them. But I do like the idea of like specifically targeting the mages and stuff, whether it be through mana or spell deflect damage. TBK, what do you got?
I don't know if I'd really like a mana burn talent. I think that would be very, very hard to balance against. And it could, and it'll. I think it would either end up being extremely overpowered or extremely underpowered and completely useless. It'd be really, really hard to find a happy medium for that, I think. I've kind of, I was thinking about this and like what could we do instead? And the one thing that came to mind was something we talked about a little while ago, where like the ranged tank that can either like linking with a person or in some sort of an AoE distribute damage around between himself and other characters, which would kind of be an anti-mage type thing, as it would negate some of that burstiness that the mages have in general. So that could be kind of cool. That's more of a tank that would be an anti-mage. And then currently in the game, I would say probably your best bet on an anti-mage is almost going to be Lunara. She's very, very quick with her passive. She's got the extra spell shield, the 75% damage reduction spell shield that you can get on her. She does quite a bit of damage. She can dodge skill shots pretty easily. I'd say she's probably one of the, other than just like a dive comp, but singular characters, she's probably one of the best anti-mage type characters that you could play.
Even Nova and Zeratul, I guess, along those lines. Kind of, so. I like it. Really interesting stuff. But yeah, I do think the mana drain would be super hard to get right. But we had a second question, multi.
That we did. This is from Core Gaming. That's spelled Korr Gaming. He actually he has a YouTube channel as well, with a bunch of content on too. And he asked, what if the reward for level 20 on an individual hero would be the ability to unlock all skins for that hero via gold? And I kind of like this idea, because then you've obviously sunk so much time into the character that, I mean, you obviously love them, so why not get at least a little kickback for that? I would think if they have it for gold, they should even have it for a fairly cheap amount of gold to just kind of reward you for getting that far. That's definitely a cool idea.
I do like this idea a lot. I don't know about them being cheap for gold. Just again, from the business side, I think it would be comparable to what like the pricing is for heroes. So if it's maybe like the legendary skins being 10K, and then like
something like that,
6K or whatever for other skins.
Well, from a business side, they shouldn't do this at all. And frankly, I still don't think they will, but it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's less impactful on the business end of things than some of the other stuff we've talked about. But this is one of my favorite ideas for level 20. And obviously, this is going back to last week's discussion of, Paragon levels or the individual hero levels, how this 10 to 20 is kind of disappointing right now, and that they are thinking of other ideas. So consider this, Blizzard.
Yeah, it was a unique one. I mean, I do like it quite a bit.
TBK?
Yeah. I think from a business case, Blizzard would have very little to lose from doing something like this, because I can't imagine the percentage of people with even one level 20 character is going to be over like 5% of the player base.
I don't have a level 20 character.
I should.
No, I mean, most people don't. And not only that, what are the chances that you have more than one?
Yeah.
Even. I mean, it takes so long. It's that level 9 to level 10. It takes that long every single level past 10. That is so much time spent with the character and so much XP. I know some hardcore people, and they have 2 level 20s.
Yeah.
And that's like 4,000 plus games played.
The thing is, though, more people are going to have them over the course of the life of the game, like 3, 4, 5 years down the road. That's going to happen. And, I mean, maybe...
I think at that point, it probably doesn't matter anymore.
Not as much, yeah. But, anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I think it'd be it's just a fun little extra if you were that dedicated to a single character.
I agree. But that's going to do it for the content this week. Multi, where can people find us if they're looking for old Lords of the Storm?
Well, you can certainly join us in-game by typing /join space LOTS to get in with some people. People are still looking for matches on there occasionally, but you can also follow us. You can also... Yeah, I'm getting tongue-tied. You can follow us on Twitter at Lords of the Storm. We also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lords of the Storm podcast. You can send us emails with questions, and we did get one that we didn't get a chance to get to this week, but next week for sure. It's one that would spark a long discussion that we just frankly don't have time for right now. So that's all, but we're getting to it, buddy. No worries. We also, of course, we're on twitch.tv/Lords of the Storm, now live Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Central. So check us out there if you haven't yet. Of course, we're a part of the Zord Network at zordnetwork.com. A great way to reach us actually is through our Discord channel, which you can find stickied at the top of our Twitter at all times. It's just a place to have a chat about the game and several other games and just anything, really. And there's also a show questions channel where you can ask questions for the show. Actually, that's where we got these two today for. So, but yep, you can always leave us reviews on either iTunes or Stitcher, preferably the 5-star variety if you would, but either way, just give us some feedback. We always appreciate it, and we definitely read through all of it, no question. And the other way that you can help out the show is by giving to the Patreon as well. By signing up as a subscriber there, you're just able to, help provide for the show in a way that's not required. Certainly, we're going to produce free content no matter what, but anything helps, and we do appreciate all of it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. You can also find us individually. You can find me on Twitter at Gizmozord and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Gizmozord. You can also find me occasionally, like every 2-3 weeks, on Convert to Raid, the World of Warcraft podcast for Raiders. And you will not be able to find me on Blizz Pro Weekly anymore.
Ew.
Unfortunately, with me moving, I
Sadness.
cannot do those video shoots from that far away. So it was really fun, and I appreciate all the guys out at Blizz Pro, Eldorian, Paul, Shadow, for allowing us to do that. And they were great. They put a lot of time into that stuff. You should check out their page as well, blizzpro.com. Cover everything Blizzard. But Multi, where can you be reached?
Speaking of pages you should check out, I didn't mention that it's patreon.com/Lords of the Storm.
There you go.
There you go. But for me, you can reach me at Multizord on Twitter. Also, I'm on The Cavalry, which is a podcast about Overwatch. I'm at The Cavalry Show on Twitter. And, yep, I'm still hanging out on that Blizz Pro Weekly, though it's going to be interesting to see where they go with the show next. But we'll figure that out as we go.
Absolutely. And TBK?
You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord and on twitch.tv/TBKZord, where I do mainly casting these days. Quite a bit of Chair League. Usually that's Monday and Thursday nights. Season 1 is actually wrapping up. I will actually be casting a playoff game for Season 1 tomorrow with Throne Gauntlet at 10 Central. So twitch.tv/TBKZord if you want to check that out. And then the new season for Chair League, if you're looking for a cool recreational league, that starts up, I believe, end of April, early May timeframe. So get your team set up for that. And then, of course, just as a community thing, a lot of people get together Monday nights starting around 7:30, 8 o'clock Central Time and do custom games Monday nights. And if I'm around, I'll usually get in on those or cast and stream those as well. So we'd love to have you if you're around.
Absolutely. They're always a good time. And again, just the Discord community is fantastic. So if you guys are looking for a community to hang out in, make sure you check that out. That's going to wrap it up for this week's show, though. We want to give a special thanks to our Patreon producer, Ouroboros, for helping support the show. That's going to do it for this week. Until next time, bye-bye.
See ya.
Goodbye, everybody.